After a bit of cleaning and light maintenance, we should be able to get this Macintosh running with some mod cons and see what it can do. Hey, it's the K-Man with a Macintosh from the 80s, the Macintosh Plus. It's been sitting in a dusty carport for years until I moved it to a nice warm shed. We'll open it up, see if it looks safe to power on, like nothing obvious is blown. They're pretty reliable Macs, so I've got a good feeling about this one. It'll also be cool to see if that external hard drive still works. Put in a FloppyEmu, maybe a BlueSCSI and all that good stuff. So yeah, let's give it a go. It is the last Macintosh to use this sort of telephone connector, which just plugs into there. And that is a medium density floppy drive, double-sided. Bit dusty and dirty it is. On the back here, we got all of our connections. This is the SCSI port, and this was the first Mac, I believe, to have a SCSI port on it. One of the things I do like about this Mac is it does have the battery stored on the outside, and I've already taken it out just in case, you know. Just want to be sure. Don't like it when I have to clean up corrosion. To get inside, you have a screw there, and they've put another one inside the battery compartment there. You also have two screws underneath the handle, for which you're going to need a special screw bit and a particularly long screwdriver. So let's get in. And with a lot of struggling edited out, up pops the back of the case. You can only just see it on the camera, but inside of the case are the signatures of the Macintosh design team. The inside of the case is looking pretty good, but very dusty, so we'll go blow that out. Which also blew out some of these tags. A bit of a light brushing with my anti-static brush. And then it's pulling out all the cables so that we can go get the main logic board out, which is also needing a good dusting. And I just keep finding those stickers which have lost their stickiness. Super speed brushing and then just sort of slipping those back in there. So I'll probably blow them out another day. Scraping off the gross bug stuff it got from sitting outside in a carport for several years. And I'll go use some Windex on that later. Sweet, well it's looking a whole lot more cleaner now, so let's go and work on it. It's got a capacitor down there that is not really good to leave in if you don't like magic smoke suddenly appearing from your computer. It is worth mentioning while we're here that CRTs and power supplies can both store up high voltages even if they've been off for a while, so take caution when working on these. And that's why they've got this nice plastic sheet here to protect you against, well, touching the high voltages. I've got one where you have these little pegs that you remove to get this plastic sheet off if you do want to do a bit of work underneath. And the way that you get these pegs off, you can see there's an outer bit and an inner bit. And what you want to do is get like a screwdriver or something and push in that inner bit. And then you can pull out the screw. And that should give me access to the back here to at least get to that little section over here where the safety capacitors are. We got this 0.47 microfarad X2 reefer capacitor. We want to replace that with a Y2 and even two little 4700 picofarad. But yeah, they're likely to also release the magic smoke. And the new cap fits in quite well. Before I put the case on, I want to see if this actually works. So Since that is all exposed up in there and all very dangerous to touch, I'm going to power it on from the PowerPoint and yeah, hopefully we get it working. Oh yeah, there's the bong. Do we get a picture? We do get a picture, but we do also get a sad Mac. It's got an error code, so it's time for a bit of internet research. And apparently if it's got a 01 as the start of the error code, it's likely to be one of these ROM chips. So the trick is go and at least try pulling them out, reseating them after doing a bit of cleaning of the socket. And yeah, hopefully that works. Rats. Would you believe it? 2 years have passed, and in this time it's been good because I've met some people who've been able to give me some low-hanging fruit, like checking the solder joints between the analog board and the main board. So I went and reflowed those joints behind the connector, and yeah, some of them look like dry joints, some of them kind of didn't, but either way, it didn't hurt to do it. Yeah, pulled out the logic board, reflowed the connector on that end, and had a look at the connections for the ROM chip underneath there. Yeah, it didn't actually fix my problem, so back to the ROMs, gonna pull them out and test them. To do this, I've downloaded some images off the internet to test these particular ROMs, and I'll put a link to them down below. Make sure, yeah, you've got the right things selected. Select, then down the bottom here, uncheck check ID and pin detect, and then hit read, and it should read it. There we go. Now to verify it, we'll load up the image. So go see the high one. Open, okay, and hit verify now, and it should, if I pick the right one, yep, successful as well. So I'll go put the low ROM in. It's good to see that the high ROM's fine, and yeah, it should read fine. There we go. We'll load up the B that I downloaded, and we'll verify against the low. Comes up with this little message saying buffer value is 29, chip value is 28. So you can hit verify to all. It will count the differences. There's 6 differences. And I've tried it a few different times, pulling the chip out of the programmer and everything. And yeah, every single time, yeah, you get the 6 differences. So something could not be right about the low chip, or maybe there is just a difference between what's on the downloaded image. So I kind of feel like it might not work, but let's give it a go and see if we still get that error. So it looks like the same error as before. So I reckon what I'm going to do, since I know only one of them seems to be a suspect, I'll go flash a new ROM for the low. Now to flash an EEPROM, because of its type, it doesn't UV erase. You just stick it into the machine, and do make sure that you actually pick the correct brand and manufacturer and chip, everything selected. It works a whole lot better when you do that, as I've discovered. Let's load up the thing that I want. Okay, we got the low ROM. Hit program. Yeah, cool. That's looking good. And there we go. Let's load up the image again. Okay. Verify. Success. There you go. So there's all the settings. Yeah, sweet. All right, here's the test. The big test. Will it work? Oh, look at that. That's already looking better. It's taken its time. Come on. Floppy disk, mouse cursor. It's not giving me back my disk. Yeah, that's a little bit stuffed. But yeah, that is so good. It was actually a problem with one of the ROMs, the low ROM. Just 6 differences were enough for it to be corrupted. Before I go and put the back of the case back on again, I'm going to do a little bit more testing, and instead of using and fixing the floppy disk drive just yet, I'm using this FloppyEmu, which hooks up there. And all you have to do is go and select what the type of drives you want to emulate. You can emulate the HD20, but yeah, we're going to just do a floppy drive. And we'll pick the image. We'll go System 3. And then it starts loading up. And it is actually loading. Yeah, that's looking pretty good. Yep, there's all the system folders stuff. What's in this folder? Oh, yeah. Cool. And yeah, let's go shut it down, which actually on this version goes and reboots. Let's try another version. They would have released about the same time as the Mac Plus, not too long after, System 4 or Alan's File Cabinet. Yeah, it's looking pretty normal in there. And we'll have a look around the disk, see what's on here. And yeah, not much really, actually. But we do have something called System Info. And yeah, the version is actually System 4. And this one actually shuts down. Seems to be working fine, so I feel confident enough to close up the case, which is a whole lot easier than opening it. And I've got this BlueSCSI V2 which plugs into the back of the computer. And yeah, you can use that as your hard drive, networking, all sorts of stuff. It can normally be powered off the SCSI port, but because the Mac Plus doesn't actually do that, I have to leave the USB cable plugged in. The Mac Plus picks up the image I stuck on the SD card, no worries. It is System 6.0.8, which I'm told is the best version for running on a Mac Plus. Ooh, and it also shows all 4 megabytes of RAM. I've set this image up on my modern Mac, as I've shown in a previous video, but of course you can, once it's going, use the FloppyEmu to load up more programs. I'm pretty happy with the way the CRT looks and how bright it is. The keyboard is mostly working. There is a few keys that you gotta sort of hit right or a few times to get them to activate, but yeah, aside from one very obvious omission, yeah, it's going pretty well. Next up, I want to try some of the networking using the Wi-Fi on the BlueSCSI 2. There's a whole guide on their website, which I'll link down below. But yeah, you set up the Mac TCP, and then you should be able to go and ping one of the websites on the net. So we'll ping Macintosh.com. And yeah, no worries, it is actually communicating via Wi-Fi to the internet through the SCSI port. Of course, the Mac came out well before the World Wide Web. And yeah, I believe what people used to do was, you know, a bit of BBSs and stuff back in those days. And there's a few Telnet apps for that. Something else that you could use back in the day and is still in use today is IRC. For chat rooms, and today it's also been used for the Twitch chat by using a guest account and a program called Wallops, which is a fairly recently made program. I was able to view the chat, and if I had the patience to stick in my long OAuth password, I could have replied on the chat as well. Next question, I guess, is what's the earliest Mac which can display the video? Okay, it's time to do some more testing, so let's go and try out some games. Our first one is Shuttlepuck Cafe, where you have a whole bunch of interesting characters that you get to choose to verse. Yeah, why is he wearing no shirt? Anyway, we're going to see how hard this game is, which, yeah, I did have this pretty good volley going for a while, but it only lasted so long. I tried someone else to verse and, yeah, didn't really find anyone who was easy enough for this noob just yet. So, yeah, we'll move on to another game. Moving on to a Crystal Quest, which is quite the fun sort of arcadey sort of game. You're collecting all the different crystals. You can shoot all the enemies that try and attack you. And once you've gone and collected all of the crystals, you head down through the gate down the bottom, or at least you try to aim for it anyway. It makes an interesting sound. And you're on to the next level. And I guess the last thing to look at is this external hard drive, which, yeah, SCSI one, got the Centronics and the 25 pin. And on the back, yeah, you can do the daisy chaining. I think that's a terminator there. And yeah, power switch, drive select switch, which yeah, just changes which ID of the SCSI device this thing is. Power, of course. And just sort of slides open like that. And as you can see, it's just got one of the quantum hard drives in it, Pro drive. And that, yeah, looks like it comes in there, goes into there, then daisy chains out to there. I'm probably going to, in the future, make a copy of that directly onto a desktop BlueSCSI. You know, you do have to power the BlueSCSI externally anyway, so yeah, why not put it in a case which fits the look? I also do wonder if I could put one of these Centronics BlueSCSIs on the daisy chain. I don't know. Maybe that's another future adventure. See what else I can do. I don't know, maybe you still have a spinny drive or something like that and you want to have a BlueSCSI added onto it. I suppose if the IDs don't conflict or... yeah, anyway, interesting future ideas. But for now, I'm going to put this back into the case and try it out and see if it works. The lovely sound of the hard drive. Something that kind of do, kind of don't miss. And there we go. We got a happy Mac and yeah, it kind of tries to load something. Okay, I'll try it with extensions off and no, still doesn't want to load. So I'll use one of those System 4 images that's on the FloppyEmu to load it up and see what's on there. See if it will read. It definitely feels slower, but we are seeing files on the drive. A whole bunch of stuff, even a Kirin folder. So maybe I have used this drive before. I see some productivity apps and some games. So definitely a hard drive I'm going to image and explore later. Yes, your eyes do deceive you. It is a little Mac clock, sort of tells the time and the temperature, and someone's gone and made an app for your regular size Mac so that it will also do all the different functions of the Mac clock, even inverts the screen, and I'll put a link to it down in the description. It was good fun playing with a Mac model, which is now over 40 years old. Mine, a little bit younger. I learnt a lot along the way. Lots of stuff I still can do with it. I hope you also had a lot of fun watching the video. Like, subscribe, and thanks for watching.